Hi guys, Johnny V from Jayvee Design. Welcome back to the channel. Now today we're just doing a little review on a little thing called airbrushes, and these are going to be some of the finest detail airbrushes on the market, and I'm going to have a look and compare a lot of different factors in and see if I can help you out if you're in the market for a new airbrush and see what you're looking at. Now we've got lots of great airbrushes within this, and I have the Iwata custom Micron Takumi I'll be looking at. I also have from H&S the Infinity 2024 model. Also from H&S I have the Evolution 2024 model. I'll be looking at a great little brush from Mr. Hobby, the Creos 771. And also from Gaahleri, I'll be looking at their Mobius 0.2 brush as well. Now guys, I think it's really important when we're looking at airbrushes. I'm going to give you a little review. We're going to take a little look at things like overall dimensions, trigger to nozzle, how each of them spray, what you get in the box, and we're going to compare them overall. Now I'm definitely a bit of an airbrush lover, a bit of an airbrush connoisseur if you will, and every single one of these brushes in this review I've bought with my own money, so I don't have a particular affection for any different brand. What I do like though is what's going to feel best in hand, what's going to spray the best, and I'm going to take you on the journey to have a look at all of the different things that I've come up with in my experiences, see if they're the same, see if they're different, and we're going to go from there. Now, if you visited my channel, you'd mainly see my work painting 3D prints and models, but in the past I've also done a lot of airbrush work on paper and canvas, so all these airbrushes have had some considerable time with a variety of mediums. So guys, come with me, we're going to have a little bit of a look into the world of detail airbrushes, and we're going to see what we can find and see if we can help you out. Righto guys, the first thing we're going to check out today is some dimensions of each brush in the review. Now today what we're going to look at is the length of each brush, and I'm also going to measure from trigger to nozzle because that can affect how close you can get to the page and the overall ergonomics of the brush. Now with each of these brushes, everybody's going to be a little bit different. Now this in my hand is the Iwata custom Micron Takumi, and this is a fairly short brush, okay, in comparison to the others, and we're going to take a look at that and we'll see that in the video as that goes on. Now this particular brush here for me fits really well into my hand, and that's probably why this is one of my favorite brushes because of the ergonomics. Now the only thing to recognize there though is that I'm about 5'5" and a pretty small guy. So if you're a little bit taller, if you're a little bit larger, bigger hands, things like that, you might actually want a brush that is bigger or has a longer back end. These are going to be things that are really come down to the user and depending also on your painting style. So let's delve into some of the dimensions of each brush. Might give you some general giveaways to what might suit you and your painting style best, and we'll compare them all so you can have a look at how they differ to each other. The first airbrush we get the dimensions for is the Iwata custom Micron Takumi, which is 13.5 centimeters long, which make it a pretty short brush overall, and definitely the shortest of this range of 5 brushes. Now it also, because of the side feed and there's no cup on top, it's allowed to have a trigger to nozzle, which is actually the shortest of all these brushes as well, at 4.5 centimeters. Now this is a really good added benefit because it allows you to get closer to the page and really makes it feel like a pencil or a paintbrush. And for me, this is actually really important because for detail, it helps you get the best sort of detail possible having that closer range. Now the next airbrush we're going to look at is the Sttenbeck Infinity 2024 model. This is 15 centimeters long, which is a little bit longer than the Iwata custom Micron Takumi, but it's still a fairly short brush as well. This is also quite good with a trigger to nozzle, which is pretty short, and that's a 5.5 centimeter trigger to nozzle. So again, it allows you to get closer to the page. Not quite as much as the Micron Takumi because the cup's on top, but still the next shortest overall. The Sttenbeck Evolution 2024 is up next, and this is much the same as the Infinity at 15 centimeters in length, but this one has a 6 centimeter trigger to nozzle, so just that little bit further back. Again, not much of a difference, we're only talking a few mil, but at the same time that does make a little bit of a difference when we're talking about something so precise. Now the Creos Mr Hobby is fourth in line, and this one is longer again with a 16 centimeter in length with a 6.5 trigger to nozzle. Now the 16 centimeters in length, for those that are a little bit bigger, may be more comfortable in your hand. If you are a little bit shorter like me, I tend to prefer something a little bit shorter. At the same time, this brush has got a lot of other really good positives, so it's something to take into consideration. So the last one we'll be looking at is the Gaahleri Mobius 0.2. This is also 16 centimeters in length along with the Creos, but this has the longest trigger to nozzle being 7 centimeters, and that can make you feel a little bit further back from the page for a detailed airbrush. Now again, everyone's going to be a little bit different. Some might like it a little bit further back. I know for my personal preference, I like to be as close as possible. But overall, these are just some really basic dimensions for you to have a look at, see what might be the most convenient for yourself, and then you can take it from there. So we're going to have a look at what's in each box, and first up, starting with the Iwata custom Micron Takumi, we can see the cardboard box with a few of the different custom Micron models on the back, and then as we get in there is the microfiber cloth and a beautiful aluminium case which has got a really great little latch on it. Now when we open it up, we can see the brush sitting in all its glory inside it. We also have the cap, a moisture trap, also some lubricant, and the little nozzle wrench as well. Get some instructions in there, a spray test, and all the bits and pieces are included. Now with the nozzle, I much prefer this particular nozzle wrench, which doesn't come. It should come with an Iwata custom Micron Takumi, but it doesn't, but that's always going to be the nozzle wrench that I use with this particular model. We now move on to the Infinity, and we can see a nice basic but really elegant box. This is just the cardboard sleeve that goes over the top. And on the back of this just gives a little description of what's going on inside as well. Now we have a nice little plastic case, pretty easy latches, and it's really elegant, and as we open it up, we can see everything inside. A nice little spray test here, just to show some great quality control, and then the brush, which is such a beautiful looking brush here. Different cups, we have some different ends, and also an adjustment tool, which is just needed only for this model, the Infinity. We now come to the Evolution, and this one has the yellow color scheme, but very much the same cardboard sleeve and the same plastic case that encases the airbrush. When we open it up, it has a little bit less included than the Infinity, particularly as both are solo versions, but we can see the airbrush really trapped in there well, and it's such a beautiful looking airbrush with the gold trim and the gold accents, and this is put together so nicely. Now the Creos Mr Hobby. This is one of my favorite airbrushes, but it's also one of the poorest boxes. A very simple cardboard box and a pretty flimsy case. You do get a little wrench in there, also an air hose, which is pretty useless. So I've actually created my own box for this, which is I went down to my sort of local $2 shop and got a really simple little case. Made it a lot better, put my airbrush in there with all my parts, and it probably says a bit about the box itself when for a couple of dollars I can make a little bit of a better one, put a sticker on top and be a lot more safer and have it look a lot better inside that. The final box is the Gaahleri Mobius, and this is a cardboard box but quite a thick cardboard, so it's actually really quite premium, so it's presented really well. Now when we actually open this box up, we can see it just gives us a few little bits and pieces in there, a quick start guide, and also some more seals, which is excellent to include, and just a way to stay tuned to what Gaahleri are doing out there. When we come into the box itself, we see beautiful airbrush sitting in there, some lubricant, the cup, and a nice little plastic nib to go over the top of the airbrush as well, and everything's packaged really well, as always, in a great way. So now we're going to get into the meat and potatoes behind all the airbrushes, and I'm going to give you all my positives and negatives based off my experiences. If you've got something different, please put them in the comments. I'd love to discuss it with you. The first brush we're going to look at again is the Iwata Custom Micron Takumi. Now, I'm going to do this in Australian dollars, and this one comes in at a hefty $790. Having said that, it's got a lot of pros, and again, as I've spoken about before, I love the fact that it's a shorter and it's a perfectly balanced brush. It's got an amazingly soft atomization of the paint, and probably the softest atomization of all of these brushes. It's really delicate parts, but it's so precise and it's got an exceptional build quality. This is probably my favorite and most comfortable trigger system and setup, not only of all these brushes, but of all time on any airbrush. I absolutely love the trigger on this, and for me, it's the best trigger of all time for me personally. This is also probably the best at spraying at low pressures. The Infinity also does a good job of this, but I tend to feel that the Custom Micron Takumi does this best out of all of these different brushes when I'm going at low pressures. Now, the other benefit about this is that being a side feed, the side feed cup allows for the shortest trigger to nozzle, as we spoke about earlier in the video, and that also allows for a greater viewing area over the top of the brush because there's no cup there. Now, this side feed is also left or right customizable, so you can actually change it here or there, or also if you're just spraying at a different angle, you can move it around, which is a really good customizable option. It's also got great little extra features like the cutout windows and the needle cap rest, which are always really great to have, and this has got an outstanding quality control with it. Iwata have always got a great quality control. It also comes with an amazing aluminium box and a really cool little microfiber cloth, which is all included for some real first-class storage. Now, there are a few cons with this one here, and obviously, as we've spoken about before, the price. This is going to be a very expensive brush and probably out of many people's price range where they're not going to probably get an opportunity to have a look at this brush. But if you can afford it, it's obviously one of the best on the market. Now, also the parts, while they're well built, they can be a bit more delicate than others, so, you know, extra care has to be taken. The other thing is that the box doesn't include any extra cup sizes, which I think is a real negative, and I think one of the big things about this, it needs a high standard wrench, which Iwata make. This should be included in a box, but when you're talking about, you know, an airbrush of this magnitude with the price, it should have the best of everything in there. So while this brush performs absolutely amazingly, what you do get included for the price probably needs to be looked at and considered before you pull the trigger. Now, the Sttenbeck Infinity 2024 model. Now, this comes in two models. This comes in a solo version, and this is Australian $479 retail. And if you get the two-in-one version with the two different needles and needle cap sizes, that's $599 Australian. Now, this again is an amazing brush. Sttenbeck have such a great build quality and such a good reputation for putting so much into all of their brushes. So it's got such a nice balance and it's got really good dimensions. And again, as I said before, the build quality of all the Sttenbecks is outstanding. Now, stripping the brush here is one of the very easiest, probably along with the Evolution. And this can pretty much mainly be performed with hand tightening, definitely for the Evolution. This has got one small little tool that comes within the box where you also need to tighten just a couple of little areas, but overall most of it can be done with hand tightening. This is also the first time a titanium nozzle has been crafted, and it's included in this brush, and it's really showing some innovative qualities from Sttenbeck. This also has some really good atomization of paint. I'd probably put it right up there with the Iwata Custom Micron Takumi. They both have an outstanding atomization of paint at lower pressures as well, which is very, very important. So both of those are at least probably on a par. I could possibly put the Iwata slightly ahead, but you know, you're really clutching at straws. This is a fantastic brush for spraying, great atomization at lower pressures. The trigger locking mechanism on this one is not something that I actually use. I pretty much like to have my trigger travel all the way back, but if it is something that you use, this feature is the best on the market you can currently get with any airbrush. So if that's something that's up your alley, this is a fantastic brush including that. The needle cap is also a great design for easily cleaning dry tips, so I think that's really innovative of the way that Sttenbeck go about their business. Excellent quality control as always, and what I love about this brush is it's a really great assortment of cups included and features added. Now, this is where the cons come in. this is where with the Infinity 2024, I want to love this brush so much, but it has a few cons which really hold me back slightly. The trigger on this one has a knurling for me that is just far too aggressive. According to Warwick at Harder and Sttenbeck, the trigger was based around a Shakti mat. So this is a little needle mat used to relieve stress and tension in a massage type environment. The problem is that these devices are pretty divisive among users, with some loving them, but others not. And a lot of people notice their discomfort and lack of evidence as a bit of pseudoscience. So why Harder and Sttenbeck, who are so innovative, would actually use such divisive design as their trigger to their sort of flagship model, it's a bit of a head scratcher to me, and I just find this it's just not something that I love. And as I say, it's probably my least favorite trigger of all of these brushes. Also, for me, the top cup can feel like it gets in the way a little bit. Particularly, I tend to have I have a style of having my finger over the trigger a little bit, and I feel that the top cup can be a little bit close to that trigger and get in the way. The other thing about the trigger, it's definitely more responsive than the previous Infinity, but this trigger response is still not my personal favorite. The Iwata Custom Micron, straight away, the minute you pull back on the trigger, I get the flow of paint, and this one is far improved, but I still don't find that it's an immediate response. It also has a small issue where the airflow can get inconsistent when pressures get between 20 to 25 psi, and this one's been noted by a few users as well. Now, fortunately, I don't tend to go up too high with my pressures on this, and it does spray well at low pressures. But if you have to go up that high, there is some inconsistency within that. There's also no native Infinity 2024 spare parts at the moment, so you have to use the shared Evolution parts. So there's no 0.25 spare sort of caps and needles that go with it. And again, you have to use the Evolution parts. Now, they are supposed to be out in November, but to where they're coming out, it's a bit of a problem for me when the actual airbrush has been out for probably over a year now. Also, the longer back end, it's going to be some people's preference, but for me, it's not my personal favorite, but it could suit others. Again, I like a shorter brush, so it's something that I probably tend to take off altogether and spray with it a bit shorter without the back end on. Now, the Harder and Sttenbeck Evolution 2024. Now, this one's a little bit different again. This is a great brush, which has got nice balance and really good dimensions. And this one here comes in an Australian solo version of $289 and a 2-in-1 version coming at $369 Australian dollars. Now, again, the build quality is outstanding. Everything that H&S put out is outstanding, and this one is no exception. Again, stripping the brush is one of the very easiest along with the Infinity, and this one can be completely tightened and taken apart by hand. Now, unlike the Infinity, this has an amazing and comfortable trigger system. The trigger system on this one, the trigger they have on this one has almost been increased. It's a bigger trigger, and it just feels plush in the finger. And I've got to be honest, when I was trialing these out, the Evolution straight away in my hand felt a lot more comfortable and a lot more what I would like in my hand over the Infinity. This also has a good atomization of paint. I don't think this is quite on the level of the Infinity or on the Micron. However, I think that also comes down to your paint, and I think you can actually get such good results in this one as well. Now, one thing that's great about the Evolution with the atomization of paint, it's got a great margin for error if you make your paint just a touch too thick. It really gives you some good use if it's a touch thicker, and I think it's probably one of the best brushes for it, which is why it's almost become my real workhorse. The needle cap is also again a great design, very similar to the Infinity, and really easy to get rid of any dry tip. The parts are also really easy to come by and replace, and they're all readily available, and it's just such a great all-rounder at a great price. Again, with everything Harder and Sttenbeck, it's got fantastic quality control, and this is really was really surprising to me as one of my great brushes that I love within this range of 5 brushes that we're reviewing today. If we look at some of the cons, the trigger tension is factory set and that can't be adjusted. That can be a shame because a lot of people like it a little bit looser or a little bit tighter, and you don't have the ability to adjust that. So that's definitely a little bit of a con that a lot of the other brushes in this review all do have. The atomization of paint is excellent, but it's probably not quite at the level of the Micron or the Infinity. And the box is pretty basic, which is fine, but it's very standard and there's not a lot of things included, particularly in the solo version. Now we come to the Creos Mr. Hobby 771, and this was one that I was able to get for $320 Australian at the time. I think it's shot up just a little bit now, but when I bought mine, it was 320 Australian dollars. Now this has got a lot of good pros. This is essentially a custom Micron CMC Plus model at about a third of the price. So it has the same head system and the same spray pattern as a custom Micron, and it's got the same dimensions and cup size as the CMC model, which makes it not quite as short as the Takumi or the CMB, but definitely that bigger version. It's definitely a longer, but it's a well-balanced brush, and again it has that beautiful and soft atomization of paint, which is very much in line with our Microns. The other thing, of course, that just means the parts are also compatible with the Iwata custom Micron. So as an example, I really like the trigger on the custom Micron, so I've changed the trigger system out to go into this brush. It's also got a MAC valve included, so a micro air control valve, and that's fantastic if you want to spray certain effects like speckling. This is also a brush that sprays really well at lower pressures, and it's got such great bang for buck with such amazing spray pattern at a low cost price. Now the cons of this has a box that is very flimsy with very basic inclusions and instructions. Now the parts, while they're well built, are more delicate than some of the other brushes, so you need to take extra care. Now, this is a long brush, which is not my personal favorite, and the big thing about this is the top cup is very large and it can't be changed out for a smaller size, so you're stuck with that large cup on top. That might come in handy sometimes, but other times it can really get in the way, particularly when we're trying to do fine detail. The trigger to nozzle starts to get a little bit further away than some of the other detail brushes also with this one, so you may not be able to get as close to the page. And sometimes these features can somewhat affect the overall ergonomics, and that's definitely for me personally, but for a lot of other users as well. Now the last brush we're going to take a look at is the Gaahleri Mobius 0.2. This one is priced the best in Australian dollars. You can pick this one up for $169, so a really good bargain and a good bang for buck brush. Now this one here is a great design at a great price, and it's awesome because all the parts are able to be hand tightened as well, but all the parts are so readily available and the parts are cheap as well, which also is a big factor. When you have to replace a part, it's a lot easier to replace something that might only be $20 than when it's $50 or $60 as well, and the Gaahleri have a really good bang for buck that way. It's got a really nice trigger and it's got some good comfort, probably not my most comfortable, but definitely more comfortable for me than the Infinity. I really like the twisted back end on this one as well. It looks elegant and it's really quite comfortable to hold in the hand as well. A good array of seals and lubricant and things like that are added into the box, so that's a great little addition that Gaahleri have done. And it's also as well, just like the Creos, has got a MAC valve included at the front if you want to spray in certain effects. It's got some really good cutout windows again for easier access and cleaning. And I think it actually has a lot of the features that a lot of the higher end brushes have, so I think that's a great thing that Gaahleri have included in this. Now the cons, unfortunately for this one, I think it seems like the quality control appears to be a little hit and miss among different users. I see a lot of people who have said this is great, but then I do see a lot of people that have had issues with this brush. Personally, for me, I'm probably somewhere in between, but it hasn't all been roses for me either. I find the spray is a fair bit grittier than any other brush, and for me it's definitely the least best in terms of the atomization out of all of the brushes. I sort of at first thought my MAC valve might have been faulty, but I've tried everything and unscrewed it to its maximum. I've changed the needle and nozzle for new ones, and it still had the grittiness issue no matter what I did. It may have just been part of a poor batch, or maybe in comparison it just doesn't spray as well as these other high-end brushes that are definitely in this lineup, and some of these are obviously the best spraying brushes on the market today. So maybe it's an unfair comparison, but I do find that the spray pattern is a little bit grittier. Now again, you are getting it for a good price, but for me, I'd rather spend a little bit more and get something for me personally that sprays a bit better. It's great if other people have had really good experiences with this brush, but for me, it was just a little bit off, and I think the quality control in the version that I had wasn't perfect. This is also probably the longest brush out there, and it's definitely the longest trigger to nozzle, and that's definitely not my personal preference. I like to be closer to the page. And it's probably just simply the one of all of these 5 brushes that I just reach for the least. I just don't reach for it all that much. I love to see Gaahleri do so well. I love their paints. I think their Kaleido paints are absolutely brilliant. But this brush just didn't wow me as much as the others, and that's just from a personal perspective. And I'd really like to hear from the guys out there if you had a good experience with this brush, and if you had a really good quality control and maybe a really good version of this, because I think it has all the features and so much potential. So it was just a little disappointing for me, but I think it's all right there to get things right. If they get this right, this is going to be a great brush at an amazing price. Now, I haven't gone overboard on the spray testing with all of these because you can't often see so much what's going on the video. So I've just given you a really basic overview of everything happening, and I've just sprayed a few lines, a few dots, and just had a little bit of a fun and haven't gone crazily overboard. But just so you have an idea, this is the Iwata Custom Micron. Beautiful atomization of paint, getting great dots, really easy lines, and it's a fantastic performing brush, and it should be at the price. The Infinity also, absolutely beautiful. The atomization of paint on this, the Micron and the Creos are second to none, and I think they're the best 3 out of all of these in this review. The Evolution again, such a beautiful brush, easy again as well, harder as Sttenbeck make quality, and again, dots and lines it does with ease. Again, this is a brush that I just love. Again, with the Creos Mr hobby, this is essentially a custom Micron, so it sprays beautifully, a really soft atomization of paint, and you just can't go wrong with this brush here. Now in the Gaahleri, you may be able to have a look, if you look closely, that there's a lot grittier spray pattern, so this is probably my least favorite, and I've done everything with the Mac valve to try it, but it always gives me that grit, so probably my least favorite as far as all the spray patterns go. So it's time to give each brush a quick Jayvee rating. The Iwata Custom Micron Takumi. This is probably my favorite brush of all, and this is a 10 out of 10 from me. I love this brush and I can do everything that I want. The H&S Sttenbeck Infinity 2024 model is a beautiful brush, and it's something that I want to love so much, but there's a few things for me personally that just seem to hold it back. On one hand, it sprays so well, and on the other hand, it's the worst trigger for me, and it doesn't feel all that comfortable in my hand. So this one's just going to slip a little bit, and a bit surprising to me at an 8 out of 10. The other one that is surprising, however, is the H&S Sttenbeck Evolution. This is such a great brush, and it's an amazing bang for buck brush. This one feels so good in my hand. I love the trigger, it feels so plush, and this one cops a 9 out of 10 from me. The other brush that I love, for me, the Creos Mr Hobby is a beautiful brush as well. The spray's a lot like a Micron, but doesn't have quite the ergonomics. So the spray pattern's beautiful, ergonomics hold it back a little bit, so again, a 9 out of 10 from me. The last brush is the Gaahleri Mobius 0.2. Now again, I've mentioned probably the quality control issues with mine. I don't think it was a perfect brush in that way. I've done everything I can to have the Mac valve up and down, but the grittiness of spray is just something I don't reach for as much, and I give this one a 7 out of 10. So guys, thanks so much for coming with me today on the world of detail airbrushes. Now, again, we might have a total difference of opinion, and if so, I want you to pop it in the comments. Let me know what you feel, because I'm only basing everything I'm putting out there today on my own experiences. But there might be different things that we can put out there for the community, so if someone's in line for a new airbrush or someone wants to try something different, then all of this information helps. Now, if you were to ask me at the end of everything, how do I work best with all the airbrushes, I'll tell you I probably choose 2 airbrushes for my main airbrushing. This here is the H&S Sttenbeck Evolution 2024 model. I absolutely love this brush, and this one is probably the one that's become my real workhorse brush for pretty much everything, spraying all my major colors, spraying bigger sort of patterns where I need to, and it's something that I find really easy to use, really easy to clean, and all the parts just are built so well. So that has probably become my major workhorse. If we were then to go into my detail brushes, my favorite is the Iwata Custom Micron Takumi. I absolutely love this brush, and if I was to put this out there, probably Mark from the Art Workshop, who has an amazing YouTube channel, probably said it best. If he lost this one here, he would probably sell all these other brushes to get another one of these. I just absolutely love this brush. This could be the ergonomics again because I'm a little bit shorter, but everything feels so balanced. I love the spray pattern, and this is probably my favorite brush of all time. I won't lie as well, and the other thing I didn't mention today, I also have a cheap $30 airbrush, and I actually really like to use that for a lot of my clear coats, or if I'm spraying something that might be a little bit different and I don't want it to clog all of my major brushes. But that are just my little tips and opinions. Guys, put yours in the comments. I'd love to hear from you, and until then guys, be good, take care and be safe. All the best.